Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
TikTok has a weird dessert everybody's debating on. Donald Trump's incredible compensation fund goes south. Heroic interventions by armed citizens. Senate cuts deal to keep government open, but the House is derelict in their duty and missing in action. And Trump says U.S.-Iran talks are beginning, but the U.S. isn't present. What the heck's going on? Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. I'm Sam Bushman. It is time for hard-hitting news that the networks refuse to use, and it all starts now. All right, so there's a big old deal about Donald Trump's compensation fund, right, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, $1.8 billion compensation fund. It was called the Anti-Weaponization Fund, if you remember. It was initially killed because everybody rioted about it, and Donald didn't really have the guts to stand up. Congress kind of betrayed Donald and said they had a problem with it and everything else, and so it went south. Now acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has formally rescinded Donald Trump's $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund. It was intended to compensate people who say they were wrongly targeted by politically motivated, I would call it lawfare, or federal investigations / prosecutions. I would say by lawfare, by putting people in jail, by not really willing to tell both sides of a story, etc., etc. And the J6ers got released thanks to Trump. I really commend him for that when he took office. But, you know, there was supposed to be a lot more where that came from. We were going to get to the bottom of it. We were going to do investigations, admit or prove what the government, did, not just the rioters or the so-called protesters or whatever you want to call them. Most of them were peaceful. A few of them did things they shouldn't do. But, the bottom line is we were going to find out what the government did. We were going to get all the video released. We were promised that. The Speaker of the House, good old Mike, said he was going to do it. Mike Johnson, he didn't really do it. They released a few little tidbits to a couple of news organizations, made you believe that they were Tucker Carlson and others, made you believe you were going to really get to the bottom of it. We never really got it. Then more got released, and the Epoch Times and Revolver magazine, and several groups did some tremendous reporting on it. Good for them. But at the end of the day, now the fund, they say, faces court challenges and, quote, bipartisan. And this is weird. They call it bipartisan Republican opposition. What does that mean? Primarily, it's Republican opposition is the point. They say critics warn that it become a loosely controlled payout program. Oh, like all the other programs that government does? Every government program, they say, this program is full of fraud. This program's giving all kinds of stuff to illegals and immigrants. This program's being exploited and wrongly used. This program... And they go on, and then they admit, hey, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. We don't have any way. We have a list of people that aren't supposed to get any money, but we don't have a way to prove that the people that are on the list that aren't supposed to get any money, we have no way to prove that they're getting money or not. We don't have any idea what's going on. Every program's like that, right? Now they say this one can go sideways. Trump has acknowledged the fund is, quote, dead, while saying he still wants alleged victims compensated, and he's going to seek congressional action to provide the idea. Wow. Great idea, Donald. Appreciate that, buddy. But I got an idea for you, Trump. A real good idea for you. Listen, do you have to have government do this? Do you have to win a ton of money from the IRS, $1.8 billion, which means, hey, the IRS doesn't have any money. The only money they have is what we collect in taxes or taxpayers' money. In other words, my money, your money, everybody's money, right? So, Donald, if you take everybody's money and you compensate the victims, then you're really making the taxpayer foot the bill of the government's missteps, right? So in a way, it's like bittersweet if you ask a guy like me, because you have no authority to steal my money to pay for victims that are abused or wronged. Do you guys remember the Alamo? Do you guys remember the guy there that was really chief involved, Davy Crockett? He basically was taught this by a redneck farmer back in the day. Remember this? Yeah, he voted for some money to go to some people who got, I think it was a fire at the time, and they were, harmed. And David Crockett felt like he was doing a good thing, God's errand, taking care of these people. And the farmer said, you know what, it's not yours to give. If you want to give your own money, Davey, to these causes, by all means, have a good time. And I'm not even opposed to my money going to the cause. But not through government, not you deciding for me, Davey. That's wrong. And David Crockett learned a wise lesson. I'm hoping Donald Trump can learn that same lesson right now, listening to Liberty Roundtable Live. Or maybe somebody will listen to Liberty Roundtable Live and pass it to the president. I'm not trying to down anybody. I'm just trying to be truthful, historically account for this truth. Okay? Todd Blanche is basically bailed from it because he's like thinking the only way I'm going to become the Attorney General for good is if I go ahead and jettison this thing. The fund, they say, faces court challenges, which means now we've got a situation where there's lawfare attacking all the J6ers. Lawfare put them in jail. Lawfare everywhere. Lawfare. And now lawfare is causing problems with the fund. They say the fund's dead. Why? Because it faces court challenges. And then they say bipartisan Republican opposition. What does bipartisan Republican mean? It means that there's a few Democrats that are against it, but primarily the Republicans are against their own president on this thing. Now, Trump has acknowledged the fund is dead, but here's my idea. Let's just now go to the Sam Bushman plan. Hey, Donald, you've made like a couple of $1 billion just in the last year. Cryptocurrency, your media company, your hotel. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but your position as president and your boys leading your organization while you're, quote, serving as president, not taking any pay. So you give up $400,000 a year. So you're not taking any pay to be president from what we understand. That's commendable. I commend you for that. But you've made a couple of $1 billion while you've been in office. Why don't you go ahead and take care of the victims yourself, my friend? Why don't you become the benevolent benefactor of true philanthropy and say, I'm going to personally take care of these people. And I'm not going to set up a bunch of money to where they get taxed to oblivion either. In fact, I'm going to give them this much money. And I'm going to put it in a fund for them to where it can't be taken, can't be manipulated, can't be whatever. I can set up a private contract myself with the parameters. And here's how it works. Hey, January 6th, let's just take Stewart Rhodes, my dear friend, as an example. Or let's just take Jake Lang, another guy that I just interviewed a couple of weeks ago live in Las Vegas. Jake Lang. These are two great, in my opinion, Americans doing a phenomenal job. Everybody backed away from them and freaked out. And not me, baby. I've been defending Stewart Rhodes since day one. Jake Lang as well, since I met him. And I'm telling you right now, listen, you could set up a fund that would say, I'm going to give, listen carefully, I'm going to give Stewart Rhodes and his children, Jake Lang and his either children or parents or whoever, I'm going to create a fund. And this fund is for this much money. Just say it's $500,000, $1 million, $5 million, whatever number makes sense. I don't know how big the fund needs to be divided by how many people have been wronged. I don't have all that in my purview. So I can't really give you exact facts. But exact facts don't matter. The point is, let's just say it's $1 million a piece for sake of argument. And I'm just going to say this money's in here. And this money's going to, be tied to whatever so that it gains a modest, safe interest rate. So the money's growing. And you can use the money and you can withdraw a certain amount a year on that. Whatever amount you want, $5,000 a month. And if you, want to use less than $5,000 a month, by all means. If you want to transfer that to your children, by all means. Because you can give your kids a certain amount of money, right? And you can give your family, loved ones, a certain amount of money. I don't know the number because it changes every tax year. But you can give gift-free money to different people, okay? And you would just basically spread out the funds to your loved ones. You'd make sure none of them are homeless. You'd make sure every one of them can get the medical care that they need. And you wouldn't have any strings attached. You wouldn't have any government. You wouldn't have any legislation. You wouldn't have anything like that. You'd just be the absolute hero. It'd be called Donald Trump's Benevolence Fund. The Donald Trump, I'm the real president that is willing to serve you fund. Whatever you want to call it, you could do it. Could you imagine if President Trump did something like that? That would change the game. Because you can do privately whatever you want to as a person. And if you say, well, some reason the president can't do that as the president of the United States because there's some law that I don't really know, then let one of your sons do it. Let Don Jr. do it. Let Eric do it. Keep it an arm's length to where it's not really you, but everybody knows who did it, but yet there's no real tie, right? Okay? There's a big old thing going on right now. I've mentioned this for a long time, and now others are starting to mention it. And I'm telling you, I don't know if they're listening to me or if they just realize the truth. You say, Sam, what are you talking about? I'm talking about this. Clock's ticking for Donald Trump. Yeah. A conservative is on Sean Hannity and saying Trump's got 3 months. I think he's got less than that, but we'll talk about it. You're listening to Liberty Roundtable Live.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education. Conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
All right, so they say the clock is ticking for the Donald. Yeah, who am I talking about? There's a well-known conservative. His name is Dave Rubin, and he appeared on the Sean Hannity show. And he says Donald Trump has just 3 months to deliver on the promises before the GOP loses the midterms. During a recent episode of Hannity's Hangouts, imagine hanging out with Sean. Conservative commentator David Rubin warned that President Trump could have as little as 3 months to implement his agenda if the Republicans are going to defeat the Democrats for the midterms. Rubin emphasized the urgency and said that Trump must act swiftly, suggesting significant political shifts could stall if the Democrats gain control. In other words, stop Donald from his agenda. Sean Hannity concurred with Rubin's perspective on the critical time frame. Now, here's what's interesting. I have been mentioning this for a while now. Remember, I'm the guy that says, hey, Trump, if you want to get serious, what you got to do is abolish the IRS. Just give Sam Bushman a 4th of July Christmas present. It was my birthday, or a 4th of July birthday present, or a Christmas present. Call it Christmas in July. Call it whatever you want. But abolish the IRS. You could do that, or as Kurt Crosby wisely said, he was wearing his referee's shirt. He says, I call foul on the IRS and I call foul on the Federal Reserve. Shut them down. You promised to get rid of the education department. Nothing's really gone on with that. Okay, you made a lot of promises, President Trump, and you haven't delivered on so many of them. And I'm not here to attack you. I'm here to really save you. I'm here to really give you some fresh, unique, constitutional, conservative, we the people ideas for solutions. So you can abolish the IRS, you can abolish the Federal Reserve, you could go ahead and crank up your own personal compensation fund, and you could take care of people. I mean, you've got billions and billions of dollars. You might as well do something with it before you die, Donald. You're 80 plus years old, my friend, and I don't know how long you're going to live on this earth. I pray you have a great long life left. Don't misunderstand my point. I'm not threatening President Trump in any way. I hope he lives a long, wonderful, beautiful, blessed life. But when you're 80 years old, you know you don't got that long to go. When you know, Unless you're going to be the oldest man in the world, you don't have 30, 40, 50 years, right? So you got plenty of money to live for the rest of your life easy. So do your children and the grandchildren even. And so, why don't you just be benevolent? Call it the Donald Benevolent Fund. DBF, Donald Benevolent Fund. And then you go ahead and do it and take care of everybody and do it contractually. And if you can't as president for some weird law I don't understand, let your son do it in your name, or let your son do it. Let Donald Jr., let Eric, in fact, bring Barron into politics. Let Barron be the benevolent. And just call it the Barron Fund. And everybody would know it's Donald being benevolent through his youngest son, Barron. See what I'm talking about? It can be done, folks. I think it's a good plan. But anyway, the clock is ticking for President Trump, so you could do that. You could stand up for pro-life significantly would be another thing you could do. There's a lot of things you could do, President Trump, that would really, really, really change the game before the midterms. And I really concur with Sean Hannity and David Rubin. Look, you've got to get this done. You've got short time. One of the other things you could do, in my opinion, you promised day one that you would get rid of gun-free zones. And I think that would be another great thing you could do, sir. All right, now let's move to this heroic intervention in Idaho. I don't know if you know, over the weekend, there was an In N Out burger shooting. But I'm going to call this heroic intervention. Glad this was not a gun-free zone, President Trump. But an armed citizen and an off-duty trooper confronted the gunman in the Idaho In N Out shooting. And they call it during a harrowing attack at an In N Out burger. What they did was they engaged in firing back at the suspect. And they say this brave action occurred during a chaotic scene where hundreds were present, ultimately helping to drive the attacker away and likely preventing further casualties. The assailant, identified as 24-year-old Chad Williams, tragically killed 3 and wounded 7 others. Then he succumbed to his own shot. He killed himself, I guess. The rapid response is giving high praise. These courageous individuals deserve high praise, said the local authorities, highlighting their pivotal role in mitigating the devastating impact of the shooting. Now, amen. Couldn't say it better myself. So you got heroic interventions. Now, remember how they always tell you, oh, we can't have guns in the hands of everybody. Every time one of these shootings occur, they say, oh, yeah, we got to get guns out of the hands of the people. And they push for gun legislation, violating your Second Amendment rights and everything else. They push for it. Thank heavens conservatives have been strong enough to stop a lot of it. But there's still thousands of gun laws on the books that are completely unconstitutional, absolutely bogus, right? Well, now this story's not going to get a lot of press. Why? It's going to get press because you can't not give a shooting press. But the problem is it's all going wrong. The rapid response by these courageous individuals, now they receive high praise from the local authorities. See, they should be receiving high praises all over the country. The narrative should be this: rape me nots, that's what I call guns. Kill me nots, hurt me nots, stop the bad guy thug guns, not assault weapons. They're only assault weapons in the hands of the bad guys. In the hands of this citizen and in the hands of this off-duty trooper, they were called heroic intervention weapons, right? Heroic intervention tools, rapid response tools. What do you want to call them? You can't call them assault weapons in this case, can you? There was a thug that went crazy with a gun. 2 good people literally saved lives. Now, I wish they could have been there quicker. I understand, but they sure beat the cops there. They were on scene. And this is the answer to the problem that we face, folks. The answer is not to debate and talk about more guns every single day and run around and be goofy like they're doing, like they always do. The answer is to take this story to the stars and to tell the tale all over the country and all over the world. Guns in the hands of good people save lives. Yeah, the rapid response, courageous individuals, Americans coming to the defense of their neighbors. You are your brother's keeper. Yeah, remember the 2 great commandments: love the Lord thy God and then love thy neighbor as thyself. That's what happens when a good guy with a gun steps up and says, oh, no, you don't, thug. Oh, no, you don't. You will not rape this person. You will not kill this person. You will not, right? And we need more of this, not less, is the quintessential point. And the reason that I bring it up. So, Donald, I know that Sean Hannity and Dave Rubin are talking about this. They're saying the clock's ticking for you, sir. And I agree with them. And I don't mean this negative in any way. I'm just telling you one of the best things that you could do is you could get rid of gun-free zones right now. You promised to do it first day, but you can keep your promise and say, I didn't get it done first day because there's so many things I have to do, but we did get it done. And you could do that before the midterms. And you could stand up tall and say, hey, because this story was not a gun-free zone, there were, what do they call it? Great people helping out, right? There was a heroic intervention. Why? Just imagine Donald saying this. There was a heroic intervention. And then he could basically say, so we got to get rid of gun-free zones because this could not have happened in a gun-free zone, ladies and gentlemen. It just couldn't have happened in a gun-free zone. So therefore, we're going to go ahead and get rid of gun-free zones to make sure that the American people are safe. It could be a solid stand for our Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. All kinds of gun groups would jump aboard. The anti-gun establishment would lose their marbles. But Donald, you would cement your legacy, my friend, if you got that done. You really would. Okay, there's so many things President Trump could do that would just be tremendous. Right? You know, Donald Trump on his first go-round did what was that thing called? The stimulus package or whatever. Everybody got a bunch of cash from the government, right? Well, why doesn't Donald Trump do a stimulus? But not through the government. Not through the government. And here's what he could do. He could say, I'm going to give every individual in America that's over 18 years old, I'm going to personally, because I've done so well in crypto and done so well as the leader of the country, I'm going to give everybody $599. You say, Sam, why $599? You're so weird. No, I'm not. $599 is the amount of money you can give anybody in the country per year without having to go to the IRS about it. The IRS doesn't have to track it. The IRS doesn't have to do anything with it at all. So how many million adult Americans are there in the country? 150 million? Is that right, Liz? 150 million, you think? There's 340 million Americans, but, half of them are children and all that kind of stuff at least, right? So 150 million, I don't have a solid number, but just use that for sake of argument. 150 million times $599. How much is that? 89 billion? See, Donald could do something like that. You say, Sammy doesn't have that kind of money. Oh, yes, he does. Listen to me carefully, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to me carefully. All Donald has to do is say, I'm going to put in my, couple of billion. And then he just has to challenge people like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bezos' wife. What's that other guy's name? He started Facebook. That guy. Peter Thiels. You could go on and on and on. Get the big stars involved and double down and do it. And then you could challenge Americans that are doing well, who may not need the $599. You could say, I'm going to give you $599, but I would like you to assign it to somebody else who really desperately needs it. And you could create the greatest, what do they call that? GoFundMe the world has ever known. And you could do it in the private sector, Davy Crockett style. Do it with your own money. Just imagine. I, Sam Bushman, would give my $599 to somebody who needs it way more than I do. I absolutely would. It could all be done private sector. It'd be the biggest GoFundMe the world has ever seen. Come on, Donald. The other choice you could do is something with health care to get government out of health care so health care costs will go down. I'm just telling you, it's target rich, my friend. We support you, Donald Trump. Let's get her done. I'm Sam Bushman. Thanks for listening. God save our constitutional republic.